Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and start. So you want to start making fun of my office? It's been a
I mean,
hard year, man. It's been a really tough year. And you want to start with the fact that I have an office. And yes, it is a basement. And it's not even in my home. In fact, I have to talk kind of quiet so people don't know that I'm in their basement. But it's worked out for like 8 months now. So
hey, whatever works, dude. I mean, you do you. You
yeah,
do whatever you got to do.
I didn't make fun of you have nothing behind you except a little door. Are you in a racquetball court? You have a little door behind you.
I have a little door. Yeah, this room I'm in here. Let me.
Or are you a giant? Maybe
No
you're.
one's ever seen this. Yeah, this is. I don't know if I can show this or not. This is like my little studio.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't show that. I wouldn't show
No,
that at all.
yeah, it's not that great.
You have
It's
a
literally
tiny,
like,
you have a tiny little fan.
dude, it's like a $5 fan that I bought at like Dollar General, and I ran 3 bolts through the base to hang it upside down to blow a little air in.
Okay, first of all, you overpaid. The place is called Dollar General. If you pay over $1, the General has taken advantage of you.
Okay, well, you know what? Let me go on a tangent real quick.
You lost the war if you paid over $1 for that.
Yeah, I used to work at Dollar General.
I got that. I've seen your tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah, if I was getting tattoos on Dollar General money, I wouldn't have any tattoos. No, when I was working at Dollar General, that company drove me insane because, like, during the training, they make you watch like, you know, 1,000,000 hours of stupid videos, and they're all animated, and it feels like you're in like 1965 watching these little animated characters, you know. And
let me jump in really quick though. I'm guessing they're not a sponsor of your podcast.
No, and clearly not going to be at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna burn that bridge. But they went through and, like, you know, explained to us how horrible unions are and how we're so lucky that this is not a union company. And then I looked up the guy that was giving that speech, who happened to be the CEO of Dollar General, and seen the millions of dollars that he has paid annually. And suddenly I could care less about this particular individual. Yeah, so everything's $1 is the Dollar Tree. I don't think I would trust to plug an electronic device from the Dollar Tree into a wall socket. I'm not that risky.
Well, that's not true because I have my computer plugged in and it's.
You can't do that when I'm drinking.
Are you there?
Yeah, you can't do that while I'm
just
drinking.
Came back on.
Did I go off?
It's kind of working.
Did I go off?
No, I was kidding. I was making a joke.
That's
my Dollar Tree. Sometimes I do jokes, Corey. I don't know if you know much about me.
That's what you do. I was curious.
So is my family and my in-laws. They've been very curious during 2020. Like, what does he do again? He Uber Eats drives. He substitute teaches. He mows. Didn't he do comedy? Wasn't that in the vows? Whenever you took my daughter, didn't it involve like trips and stuff?
Hooked my daughter. That was a nice. That was a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
I like that. I didn't fall in love. I hooked her.
I hooked her. Tricked her.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know that I would go out saying that you hooked your wife. That might get around.
My brother had a great, when he met Sarah, he was like, dude, if you have something on her, like, just make her give you money. Don't, like, ruin her life. Like, if you're bribing her, like, he was looking at her like, are you okay? Like, give me a sign. You know. Are you here against your will? Yeah.
Yeah. I had this running joke with my fiance. We met online. I had given, you know, and we've talked about this. I gave up on the online dating thing, but for some reason I found out Facebook had dating, and I was still on that, and that's how we met.
Yeah.
And there was this long running joke. Like, the first time she met me, you know, I got 2 kids at home. I don't have a lot of time to go out and date. So I'm like, look, here's my address. Come on by. So she drives, like, she lives a little over an hour away from me, like an hour and 20. She drove all the way to my house. So picture this. She has no clue who this guy is. She knows him from Facebook. And she drives to my house. She gets here, and the whole way, like, we had this running joke about, I'm going to show her my basement one of these days whenever I feel like, we're to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And her sisters actually said, text us when you get there, and like text us throughout the time that you're there so we know you're okay. So they were just wanting to make sure that I wasn't a legit serial killer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I still haven't shown her the basement, and we're engaged. So that's going to be a shock when she moves in December.
Yeah, you always got to have a little, like, a safety thing. I think Sarah, I'll have to ask her about this, but I think she either had friends that would go to the restaurant and be there to kind of help.
Oh, really?
Or she was the bouncer and would, go to a restaurant for her friends. I can't remember how it goes, but they definitely had a system.
Like incognito, had a friend hanging out in the back corner.
That's the thing. You don't just date the person. You date all their friends, because they're immediately like Googling you, and like satellites are linking up, like they're dusting off fax machines. Like, it's all incredibly interlinked where, like, people would, Sarah was, and Sarah was right to do this, but she had a couple of friends and she was like, I don't want to, if he really does comedy, I don't want to watch his stuff. I just want to get to know him, which I really loved. But she was like, but here's his information and his social. And I took his wallet on the first date. And so she had her friends, our friend, we call her JFM, Jenny from Memphis, man. Mm-hmm. Jenny did all this research, and come to find out, she went to school with Clay Cross, who was the first guy I toured with. So she was calling him up and being like, hey, I know you hadn't heard from me since my junior year, but what do you know about Bob Smiley? Like, it was so like in depth. I was definitely vetted thoroughly before, I got that third date.
That's a really cool, like, what are the odds of you touring with Clay Cross and then the woman that you met online and her friend on the other side of the country happening to go to school with this guy?
Yeah. And we went out, I think we went out once or twice, and then she flew to Memphis for New Year's. And so I FaceTimed both of them at Jenny's house, and they were laughing. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And Sarah goes, and, I just met her. And she was like, and for your listeners, Sarah's my wife. She was like, oh, we're watching this Christian comedian. He's so good. And because in order to be a Christian comedian, you've got to be super cocky and self-absorbed. Like, they take you aside in Nashville before they let you out and tour. It's like, here's your ego. Hold this. We're going to inflate it. Here we go. Okay. Now, right before it bursts, we're going to send you out on the road. So I just automatically thought they were talking about me, and she was making a joke. We're watching this Christian comedian. He's so funny. And I was like, oh, what bit? And she starts telling me, and I was like, are you watching John Chris? And she was like, yeah. Have you heard of him? And I was like, I just got off the phone with him. I actually talked to him before I called you. So yeah, it was a very small, weird world that we were in.
Yeah, it really is. By the way, my woman, Brandy, she said, make sure you tell Bob I said, hey.
Oh, tell her hi. I miss her.
Yeah. And I think it's ironic because you literally guilted her into following your Facebook page, which made me wonder.
I needed a follower, man. I'm not proud. I'm not too proud to beg, man. I have gotten, we did this the other day. I've had people come up after the show and be like, you mentioned your podcast, Hook, Line, and Smiley. Like, how do I find it? And I was like, give me your phone. You're about to subscribe. And I'd get on the phone and I'd subscribe, Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm working it.
I made a mistake one time. I went to a show here over in St. Louis, and it was like a live show for a radio show. Mm-hmm. And they do this big live event every year. And I went to that, and like the head guy, the host of the show, they were all out in the lobby, like doing meet and greet pictures and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, one of their like co-hosts I liked really well, and I was kind of cutting up with him in the corner, and I turned around to Dave, like the head, the host, the show's named after him, and I said, hey, can you take a picture of me and Ryan? And I handed him my phone, and he just looks at me kind of like this, and he like takes 2 or 3 pictures and hands me my phone back. And he took like a quick couple of pictures of like the top of my head, and then like a 3-second video that I had to like later like crop out a picture real fast. And I'm like, okay, he got one over on me. That was nice.
Yeah. Do you know Nate Bragadsky?
Yeah, I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard
Comedian,
some
like really famous comedian, awesome dude. The guy that opens for him a lot of the times is Brian Bates, and so I think they were coming out of a movie theater or something. I forget how the story goes, but and Nate's he's had Netflix specials and like huge, sells out theaters and all that. And these people came up and was like, "Oh my goodness, Brian Bates can and handed Nate the phone and was like, "Will you take a photo of us?" And Nate's such a humble dude. He was just like, "Yeah, absolutely," and took it. And so it was just great. I love when that stuff like happens. And
Yeah, and you're clueless.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if I've told this story on an episode before, but if I have, I'm going to tell it again, because this is one of the most hilarious like meeting celebrity stories I've ever been involved with. I was in Las Vegas a few years ago on a business convention. Really, it was a legit business convention.
Yeah, Dollar General. We know you're high up in the...
Yeah, no, right, no. They would send you to McDonald's for a convention at Dollar General and give you a $5 limit. So it was me and a company I used to work with. We used to go there for a big convention every year. We get there, and it was a furniture thing. So there's this big center in Vegas called the World Market Center, which is like the largest premier place for furniture in the country. It's like 3 million square feet, I think, of furniture dealers. It's huge.
Okay, so I could do a show there. Like that would hold...
Yeah, you could probably get like a room with like Ashley. I'm sure Ashley would loan out their space for you. You know, there's like 78 living rooms in there, so help yourself. But so we go, and we were going to like a specific floor with a specific venue that we were going to, and it was one of the companies that we dealt with. So we're on our way there, and we're like in this building. It's like a 15-story building, and there's this guy kind of like standing a ways away, well-dressed, business suit, carrying a briefcase. And my buddy that's with me, he starts whispering to me, he goes, hey, that guy looks just like Donny Osmond. And I'm like, okay, yeah, a little, yeah, it looks like Donny Osmond, whatever. Really not my, style, not my time, but from what I know of Donny Osmond, I guess it does, whatever. Then he goes, no, like he looks identical to Donny Osmond. I'm like, we're in Vegas. Everyone looks like someone. Steve Austin, Stone Cold, dealt cards to me at the Hollywood last night. Everyone looks like somebody. Yeah. There we go. I'm a Christian. I just admitted that I played cards.
And you watch wrestling.
Not since 1999. So
before it became fake.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
Sorry, spoiler alert to everybody.
Yeah, in case you didn't know. So we get on the elevator. It's me and my buddy and this Donny Osmond lookalike. Mm-hmm. The three of us are on the elevator, and my buddy decides to be funny. And he looks at the guy, and he goes, so, how's Marie doing these days? And the guy just smiles and looks at us, and he goes, Marie who? And he goes, Marie Osmond. And the guy goes, never heard of her. And we get to the floor, and the guy goes, have a good day, guys. It's like, you too. So, my buddy's like, he looked just like Donny Osmond. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So we walk, we kind of get ourselves together. We go over our stuff, and we walk down this hallway toward the dealer that we're walking into. And outside the door of the furniture dealer is a cardboard cutout of Donny Osmond advertising the line of furniture that he has with this company. So we walk in, check in, and there's the lookalike doing photo ops inside the venue. So I just looked at my buddy. I'm like, you gonna go get a picture? And he was like, no.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna tell me it turned out to be like Kevin Hart or something. Like he was just way off. He was just way, like not even remotely close.
So yeah, that's one of those moments that happened in life I'm never gonna forget. It was just hilarious.
I think I've told this before, but I met when I flew out to Nashville to start being a comedian, it was all surreal. And we were in this practice studio, and like Dolly Parton had a studio that she was working on stuff, and Barbara Mandrell was there. And I grew up watching the Mandrell sisters, so it was Barbara and Earlene, and I forget the other one. But anyway, the Mandrell sisters. And they had this variety show that my grandparents loved. And I always noticed Earlene could not really play, the other two sisters could play every instrument and do all that stuff. And so I went into the vending machine area, a little green room, and Barbara Mandrell was trying to get $1 to go in. And I grew up this little country kid, so I'm not used to seeing famous people. And all of a sudden I'm in Nashville in a green room with Barbara Mandrell. And so I was like, let me show you. And I showed her how to take $1 and like rub it on the side of the vending machine so that it would go in, and she was like, oh, thank you so much. And she was so sweet. And I took a gamble on a joke. I go, I used to watch your show. And she was like, oh, that's so great. And I said, but I'm going to be honest, Earlene was my favorite of the three because I can't play an instrument either. And she died laughing. And she was like, oh my goodness, we used to have, because she would like, the other two sisters would play like 3 or 4 instruments in this song. And then it would go, and Earlene, and she'd be on the drums and be like, boom, 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 like just barely. And she actually told me they had a drummer like off to the side or underneath the risers or whatever that would also play. So it sounded like, but it turned out to be the perfect comment, but I really took a gamble. I had no idea she would be like offended or anything, but super sweet. Like, but she actually was playing along because it actually wasn't Barbara Mandrell. She left, and then Clay came in and he was like, why aren't you talking to Donny Osmond? And so it turned out it was weird. It was very weird.
All right. So, on this podcast, I usually, I don't come in with a theme. I don't come in with like, here's 5 talking points. Let's go with this. I don't do scripts because the whole point of this podcast is, the title is Simply Said, but the tagline is Simply Profound Conversations. And I love organic conversations. I love just talking about whatever needs to be talked about and having this thing called a conversation that grown-ups used to have where they would just sit and talk and one subject would lead to the second and to the third. And we would just sit and maybe solve a world problem before the night was over. Maybe not, but that's what we used to do. Now we just, text and email. And if you text me and it's over 5 lines, please email that. Don't text that. I want to be able to read everything in the little box on the top of my phone without swiping up to open the text app. Mm-hmm. We don't know how to talk anymore. We don't know how to have conversations anymore.
Okay, not to interrupt you, but you skipped a line in the script. You said you also have to download.
Sorry, yeah.
It.
My bad. Okay, let's go back.
Okay, that's gonna throw me off because I do not do ad lib stuff. Like I've got to stick to the script we agreed on.
All right, we'll try to stay on. So I want to kind of piggyback off of your latest podcast episode, which was fantastic, I will say.
Oh, thanks.
What was that? Was that like 630 that you just got through?
It was just 64. We're
64.
And we're trying to hit 100, pretty quickly. But summer's been in the way, and like we just got back from a camp. We went to Piney Woods, which is this camp in East Texas, which I love. I've been doing it off and on for like 20 years, and actually, we got back. I left and went to the gym. So I've been at this camp for a day and a half and then went to the gym. So people need to be really happy that it's not like smell-o-vision or anything like that, because it is a rank in the office basement here.
Yeah. Well, I just got
to my neighbors trying to sell this place when I finally get out of it.
I just got off my day job. I literally got off work and drove straight home into the studio. So I'm right there with you. So that podcast episode, there was a discussion that you and Sarah had that was just fantastically well said. But my mind, in thinking about what, kind of gearing a conversation tonight and what we would talk about, my mind had kind of already been in some of those places, and it was like you guys were just echoing what I had been thinking. And it was, you know, some of the things that we've talked about in previous episodes and the things that drive me insane.
You're going to have to tell me what we talked about, because we always start with a plan that we're going to talk about this. This is our topic, but then we rarely get to the topic. So I love that you liked episode 64, but we recorded it like a week and a half ago, and I honestly couldn't tell you anything that we said. Like I haven't. So what were we talking about?
So you guys got it. You didn't say this, but I'm pretty sure you alluded to it. I'm just going to let someone decide that for themselves. You don't have to throw yourself in this mix. Okay. But talking about, you know, there was the controversy over, you know, the pride flag comment you made on Facebook, which I read. I saw the backlash. I saw the Karens and the haters and, you know, whatever, you know, buzz off. But then you got into this discussion about how, you know, there's so much controversy over little things. And one of the controversies that I mentioned on my, well, it hasn't come out yet, but the last episode I recorded with a guy named Ray Blair, a pastor out in California, we talked about kind of at the end of ours about some of the garbage going on in our culture today. And one of the things that kind of got brought up was the whole Matthew West, you know, modest is hottest thing. And he just, you know, I thought when I listened to that song, and I know you cannot find that song anywhere online. It's gone. Really? Like it's gone. It's gone. They took it down. If you find a link for it, like I had it, I shared the link on my Facebook page because I just thought it was a hilarious, you know, song. Yeah. It wasn't meant to be a serious, this is how I treat my children thing. You know, it was, for anyone that heard it, it was just meant to be a, you know, a ha-ha satirical type thing.
Or saw the video. The video was, so, all right, I'm gonna let you finish, but so he's a really good friend of mine. Like we've toured together and I know his heart, and he literally is one of the nicest guys in the world. Like just, and like such a family guy, like, you know, Emily and you know, his daughters. And I mean, he's just such a good dad and husband. And like, we've got to see that. We've done a lot of stuff together. And so I'm just scrolling through his Instagram because it just pops up on my feed. And I noticed that this one post has a lot more comments. And so I start reading down and it's all talking about the song. And so I'm like, whoa, what? And I listen to his podcast because it kind of makes me mad. I text him every once in a while and say, Matthew, you sing, okay? You can't be funny and sing. Like, this is all I have. So stop taking away my only hope to do something in this world. Because he puts out all these hit songs and he's like, oh, by the way, here's a comedy piece that's better than anything that Bob Smiley's ever put out. And so I'm always like sending him stuff. And so I'm like, what song are they talking about? Because he also has written some of the most inspirational songs that I've ever, he's written songs. I haven't actually told him this, but he's written songs where like, if I'm at a low point, you know, like years ago when I was going through like a real low point stuff, I would listen to some of his songs and it would remind me like, oh, you know, God's not done with me. Like you know, I am like, I'm a name in God's book. And so, I mean, there was just time. So I started looking, trying to figure out what are they talking about? And so I just put in, you know, his latest song and this pops up and I watched the video with the song and I am rolling. Yeah. So absurd and just like he nailed it. And so I was like, well, it can't be that. So then I go back and start reading some more comments on it. And then based on some of the comments from the snowflakes and all that, like, I was like, oh, they are talking about that song. So yeah, it was insane, man. It is super dangerous to put anything out there. And the thing with my post, I was trying to say two things. One, I was trying to make a joke that just made people laugh, but also I realized like we as Christians, we can't share our beliefs without people going, oh, you know, get that garbage away from me. Don't tell me about your invisible God. Don't, you know, try to force your beliefs on us. But by the way, now anytime you open up any kind of advertisement or anything, we're going to force our beliefs on you. And you've got to, especially this month, you got to totally go along with whatever, you know, no matter what your Bible says, you have to put all that aside and join us or else you're a horrible person. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting over here going, I've seen God in my life, and God talks a lot about love and all that. But, I'm like, I just want to be able to say, God bless you if you sneeze, and not, but that's offensive now. Like, so
Right.
I think Christians are the only ones that are not. Everybody else, like, we have to be tolerable of everybody else, or we're a horrible person. But if we want to share our beliefs or what we've seen God do in our life, then we, like, all of a sudden people can be intolerant of that. And that's not a bad thing, because, we can't be forcing our beliefs down. It's such a weird deal. I remember when it kind of all started was like, hey, just let us, live our life. Don't encroach. Just let us live our life, because it's not going to affect you. Let us get married. Let us do that, because it's not going to affect you at all. But now we have to be careful what we let our kids watch because of commercials, because everybody is like, oh, no, we have to force this lifestyle down everybody's throat until everybody is on board. And I'm like, what happened to hey, let us do our thing and you do your thing, and let's, and then we'll love on each other and coexist and be nice. But it's not that way anymore. It's not. It's completely gone the other way. So that's kind of what I was saying by the post. I wanted people to think, and people they were thinking out loud.
And it made people think. And I feel like you kind of are recalling the last podcast conversation a little bit from some of the stuff you said here. But you guys kind of talked about how you can't have an opinion anymore, and you talked about some of the things that you just said. One of the points that I keep notes is I do this so that I have these things for my memory for later when I'm editing. One of the things you talked about was tolerance, and we have to be tolerant of everything. And one of the things that I have come to realize is that the world expects tolerance for every subjective idea, but there is no tolerance allowed for anything that is viewed as an absolute. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the points you made in your podcast was that there were people demanding that you give a written apology for that, which I heard and said, that is absolutely absurd. And I'm so glad. First of all, I went back an hour ago and made sure that post was still up. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah.
And I looked at that because I looked to see if that post was still up, because I was gauging something. And what I was gauging was this: is this man strong enough not to apologize for telling the truth? Mm. And clearly you felt zero need to apologize for the truth. I think that we are at an impasse as Christians, and anyone listening, do not take this as me saying, we are just the persecuted church. That is not what I'm saying. I am on record for saying this. If the persecuted church is what Americans think we have, then they don't even understand the definition of the word persecuted.
Right.
We've got it pretty good in this country. We've got it really good that we can say what we want. I can say everything I'm going to say here, air it into the ether, and no one's going to come hunting me down for saying what I want. Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how your listeners respond.
Yeah, all 6 of them won't care.
Yeah.
So Westboro Baptist Church is a testament to that, of what you can get away with.
Yeah.
If they want to call themselves a church, which is a totally different subject on its own. But I think we have to come to a point where on any matter, we have to stop apologizing for telling the truth. Mm-hmm. And that's what the world wants us to do. They want us to apologize. And here is why I say we cannot apologize. We cannot say, I'm sorry because I preached, or I said in a comedy bit, or I said on a podcast, this thing about a pride flag, and I'm sorry I said that. I wasn't trying to offend anybody. We've got to stop apologizing for telling the truth. And here's why. Because biblical truth is not a subjective truth. All of the ideologies that are aimed at the biblical truth holder are all subjective truths, meaning from one person to the other, truth is different.
Mm-hmm.
We have lost the definition in our culture of truth. We've redefined it into something that it's not.
Right.
There's no more basis. There is no such thing as an absolute, and how narrow-minded of you to believe that there is. If we continue to operate under this fluid definition of truth, there will never be any such thing as an absolute truth. And if we continue to call ourselves Christians, then we have to say that this is truth. It's absolutely truth. And I won't apologize and diminish that truth by saying that I'm sorry for what I said. Because whenever you apologize for something, all you're doing is simply saying that what I believe in is not worth standing up for.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the Bible is offensive at its core.
It seemed like there was somebody in the Bible that said they're not going to like you because they first didn't like me. I can't remember who it was. It seemed like a major character. I don't know. I haven't finished it, so don't tell me how it ends. Okay, don't ruin the ending for me. I think the devil did it, but I'm not sure. But yeah, it talks a lot about that. I left the comment up. One of the haters said some really horrible things about me. But in it, he was like, and you deleted comments. And I was like, I didn't delete any comments. And if you go and look back at all the responses, if I was going to delete some comments, I definitely would have picked some ones that were really, really offensive, and mean-spirited toward me, or my family. I would have picked those to delete, but I didn't delete anybody because I feel like everybody has their own right. Even on my wall, if I post something, I'm fine with whatever you want to say, underneath it. And then I rarely respond because I say what I feel and I believe, and then I let everybody, view their opinions and stuff. And Hawkins and I kind of both agree on this. You put stuff out, and then you let the people, like your fans and stuff, fight your battles. So when they say, how terrible you are, how unfunny you are, or, whatever it is, you just kind of just let it go and, let other people fight battles.
And the truth of it is they probably had an axe to grind to begin with. They were just looking for that opportunity. Some people just walk around with that axe in their hand looking for something to sharpen it on.
And Sarah and I have talked in detail about this. Like, also, we don't know what's going on in that person's life, that they have, that much animosity or hatred towards something that you put out, that you're just trying to, bring a little, a laugh or, a little bit of joy to someone. And then all of a sudden it's like, you're this horrible, like, we don't know what's going on in their life. And we've both been through times in our life where, we've responded to something and it really wasn't about, like, we weren't angry about whatever we were actually responding about. We were angry because of what all was going on in our life at the time. So we try to take everything with like a block of salt, just like, okay, these people maybe they're just in a bad place, or maybe they've had a bad experience, with something. And so we don't know. So I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and, let them say their piece and, and then just keep doing what I do, So.
Yeah. It used to be that people were allowed to have varying opinions. And even crazier, it used to be that you were allowed to be friends with people that had opinions that were not the same as yours.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was in 6th grade when they made a rule that you couldn't be friends with people that don't agree with you. It was, yeah. I remember I was doing a show one time and I was doing a joke about Michael Jackson, and it wasn't like anything really super controversial. It literally was about how he looked. And it was just a joke about that. It was a joke about something that he had worn, or so. I can't even remember the joke. But I was doing my act, and this lady came up after the show, and she was so irate, and she was like, Michael Jackson is a blessing from God, and he has brought so much happiness to people, and just going on. And I just let her just rant, and she goes, so I want you to tell me that you're not going to tell that joke ever again. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
I hear your response, but I'm going to tell that joke tomorrow night at a show. Like, I stand by that joke, and I'm not making fun of his like any of the controversy stuff, because I feel like that's way too serious. And there's just some things I just will not do jokes about. But I can make a joke about a famous person, the way they look,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and she did not want to leave my table until I promised that I wouldn't. And that was kind of early on in the, people, their opinion, they're entitled now. And so they think that their opinion should be your opinion, and they're not going to let up until they have like worn you down and you finally agreed with you. And I was like, that was the very first time that I kind of saw the changing of society, because then I started getting more people like that didn't like a bit about whatever Dollar General, and they would be like, you gotta, and I was like, okay, well, then maybe my show's not for you, which is fine.
Well, and that's the thing, it's coming to that realization, maybe this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Maybe the world doesn't need to see everything your way. Maybe subjective opinions are just that. Maybe we've gotten to a place in our culture where we have become so, what's the good phrase to use here? Pompous, that we can't even allow people to have a differing view. And not to go political, but I noticed this really began hard about 4.5 years ago, when a certain person was elected into a certain office in a country that we happen to live in.
Yeah.
And
Jimmy Carter. Really
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not really into politics. Was that him? What you were talking about?
Something like that. Yeah. And I noticed that, people just went from saying, okay, live your life and believe what you want to believe, and we can have a discussion and then hug it out afterwards, to saying, no, let's jump to a polar opposite, and you stay on your side of the line and I'll stay on mine. We'll meet in the middle and grapple every so often, but that's what we do. I grew up, me and my grandparents, we did not see each other together politically. My grandparents were Democrats. I'm not. My dad is a Democrat. I'm not. I jokingly say my dad is kind of a far left Democrat in certain ways. He thinks I'm, crazy far right in certain ways. But at the end of the day, me and my dad can sit down and have a heated discussion where we kind of get after it with each other.
Yeah.
And then afterwards we go, okay, good talk. Where are we eating dinner at? And then we go eat dinner and hug it out, and it's over. It's a discussion where we're allowed to have differing views. We aren't allowed to do that in our society anymore. And I feel sorry for my kids that's the mentality that they're being brought up under, as if tribalism and cliques weren't already a thing.
Yeah.
Now it's becoming such that, I feel like as adults, we have went back to grammar school and we're treating life like a playground. And it's like, no, you're the popular kids. You're the poor kids, you're the jocks, you're the cheerleaders, you're the smart, gifted kids, and you're the kids that are probably going to get held back a year. And we've sectioned off all of ourselves, and we're doing the same thing as adults. And it's like, you don't intermingle with the other group, and you've got the weirdos that do. The guy that plays basketball, but he also plays trumpet, and he's in the math class, or the math competitions.
Yeah, he's a mathlete. Don't make fun of us.
So
anybody that knows me knows that's a huge joke, because I am the worst at math. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I've done a couple of camps this summer, and one of the announcements that they make at camps that is new is, whatever your political beliefs are, or whatever your thoughts on of wearing mask or not wearing mask, please keep it to yourself. We're here to have a good time. Please don't get into a discussion about any, of the polarizing topics like that. And I thought, I've been doing camps for 20 years. I've never heard, and I'm glad the camps are making that announcement. That's super important, because you do have kids that are showing up and they're wearing masks because they feel like they need to wear a mask, or they've been told by their parents that they have to wear a mask. And those kids shouldn't be persecuted because they want to wear a mask. Just like if, you know, kids show up and they're, you know, wearing a mask, you know, that's their choice. I'm just glad they're at camp, you know.
Yeah.
Like the kid with the mullet, you know, not my thing, but I'm not going to come up and go, what are you thinking? You know, like,
Yeah.
I'm just glad everybody's there and having a good time. But I've heard that announcement a couple of times at camps, and I thought, we really are drawing lines in the sand and thinking that this is the most important issue ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's about community. And, you know, I think just like reaching across the lines and saying, we totally disagree, but man, if you want to come to my show, I'll make you laugh for an hour, you know. Like,
right.
we're probably not going to agree on certain topics and stuff, you know, and I might post something that's going to offend you, but, you know, I hope I can at least bring a little joy, or we can find some common ground to, you know, start a friendship or something. But it just doesn't seem that way. It seems like everybody is kind of gathered all their opinion. I talked about this on the podcast. It is kind of coming back to me that I do think 2020 had people at home more, and I think they started thinking through more of their opinions and all that, and it became like a concrete foundation of, oh, this is how I think, and if anybody else thinks differently, it's up to me to make sure that they realize the error of their ways, you know. And I don't know, man. I just think we got to give the benefit of the doubt to people, and, you know, and know it goes back to knowing the Bible, though. Is if I profess to be a Christian, I want to know what the Bible says, and I want to know that truth, and I'm going to live my life based on that truth. If you don't agree with that, that's fine. But if I say something from the Bible that is truth in the Bible, then if you want to attack me, that's fine. I know that you don't agree with it, but I'm not going to hate you because of it, you know. But it seems like it's not that way with everybody, you know.
Well, and I think that's another problem. And I read through some of the, you know, hate mail that you got off of that post we talked about earlier. Yeah. And one of the things that somebody immediately jumped to was, well, why do you hate, you know, the LG, and let me get this straight because I've lost track of the letters, LGBTQAI plus.
Yeah, we have Disney Plus and we have Hulu Plus, but I haven't got that other one yet.
Yeah, it's.
See, I probably will get hate mail for making that joke, just because it ends in plus and everything is plus now. So I will probably get some hate mail, and you know what? That's fine. But I thought it was pretty funny because that's the deal. Like I don't hate anybody. Or Dennis Miller had a great line. This was years ago. He was like, anybody that thinks that I hate you because of your skin, anybody that hates anybody because of their skin color is so far off base. If you'll take the time to get to know them, you will be able to find a good reason to hate them. So don't base it on skin color. Really take the time to find out why you should hate them. And I thought, okay, that's a really funny joke, but it actually makes a good point. Yeah. How about if we're not going to like somebody, we don't like them because of a character flaw or something you don't totally agree on, but even don't like them is a strong word, you know, like how about we just realize everybody is in a different part of life. Everybody's coming with different, you know, baggage and stories and all that kind of stuff. And let's just try to get along. You know, we're going to ruffle some feathers and stuff, but you know, that's what happens when you put this many people on the planet, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, baby.
Hey.
My wife just got home.
Yeah. I think we've got to get to the point where we learn how to disagree productively instead of disagree violently and angrily.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I don't think that is true. In fact, I would like you to like recant that.
Okay.
I'd like you to say that what you just said was not right.
All right. I think we need to come to a point where we can learn how to disagree productively and not violently. And
totally
angrily.
Disagree, and you're making me angry.
Well, I think we need to come to the point.
So this is what it feels like to be on Facebook as somebody's just reading stuff. This is great.
Yes, it is.
I get it now.
When you start verbalizing the garbage that people type without thinking, you realize how absurd. Hey.
You're my girl.
Big surprise, Sarah's here.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's one of the downfalls of our culture is that we don't know how to productively disagree. We just disagree. And if you disagree with me, that equals hatred. when that is not the truth. I watched this really awesome show the other night. It was, I'm really into some like British comedy stuff. And Hugh Laurie, Hugh Laurie used to do a show with Stephen Fry called A Bit of Fry and Laurie. It was some of the most hilarious comedy in the world. And they
that
did
hurt a little bit, but go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, yeah, for their era. They're British. You're not. So it's cool. So they did a reunion thing where the two of them got together. And Stephen Fry is an open homosexual. Hugh Laurie is clearly not. And they showed on this reunion special this like comedy bits where they were making jokes about homosexuals. And Stephen Fry was the one making them. And even he said, I never once was attracted toward Hugh, which is great for the career because that would have made things weird. But, he knew that my life choice, there's comedy in this, and I have to be willing to let the comedy come out of my life. As Christians, there's a lot of things to make fun of about Christians, admittedly. I'm Baptist. We got, potlucks, business meetings, and, Grandma Karen's all over the place. We've got hours of material just on a Sunday morning. But you can't use any of that anymore.
I did not know you were Baptist. All right, well, I've got to go. But no, actually, I don't want to get too far off this point because I think this is maybe this is the whole point of the podcast. And I'm going to quote a guy who I totally disagree with almost every point of our life, but Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson, after the Columbine shooting, they were trying to get him to have a quote or something. And they said, if you could have gone and sat down at the lunchroom table with those kids, what would you have said to them? And I thought what he said was brilliant, and I think it's how we should approach other people with opposing views. He said, I wouldn't have said a thing. I would have sat down and listened to them. Because I guarantee you those kids don't feel like anybody's listening to them. And I think maybe that's why people are getting so loud with their opinions, is because maybe they don't feel like people are listening to them, and they feel like, oh, I got to get it. And so I've thought of that quote so many times. So anytime I'm approaching somebody that has a different view, especially against Christianity, I love talking to atheists because I love just to know, like, okay, what led you to that, belief or non-belief? Like, what led you to this point in your life? I love just sitting and listening to them. And then if you'll listen to them, it kind of disarms them. And then we get into a dialogue. And I think that, and it's civil, because I'm not immediately going, oh, well, you're obviously not intelligent. If you can't look out at all the creation and see a God that created all of this, and you think all this happened because of Big Bang, or crystals or whatever their beliefs are, stuff. You think it just, all of this just happened. If I start off with that, then obviously they're going to close up and they're not going to be open. But if I sit and listen to what they honestly think, and then we get into a dialogue, man, that's what we're created to do. Is that's when our minds and the logic and so really start firing, and we start able to see both sides, and then we can have an intelligent discussion on that. And it kind of takes the emotion out of it, because we're both kind of invested and fascinated with what both of ourselves are saying. So there definitely is a way to do it and approach it. And I don't know if Facebook posts will ever be that thing.
No, probably not. I'm not exactly sure what hatch door in your basement floor just got open behind you, but it sounds like someone's burying the body. So
yeah, Sarah's starting dinner, and the louder the cabinets close, the more I know I need to go in and help her start cooking.
Well, in that case, all right, real quick. What
Can you hear? She's like banging the cabinet. Boom, boom.
All right, Bob, thanks for hanging out with me, dude. Good talking to you. Good seeing you again. All right. Take a minute, give yourself a shout out, tell us where to find you so people that want to know about you can find you.
Oh, I always forget to do that. I know. Forget to.
You're so humble.
I really am. So I am on Facebook, Bob Smiley Comedy. So if you have any kind of hate-filled rants against Christian comedians, please, follow and like and jump in on the discussion. I'm on Instagram. It's Bob Smiley Comic. If your listeners are really bad, sinful people, I'm on TikTok. So that is, I just started on there. So I said that at a camp last night. I made that joke, and I said, I'm on Instagram, and if you're a sinner, I'm on TikTok. And so many kids after the show, they came up, and it was a Christian camp, and they came up and they kind of had their head down, and they were like, I'm going to follow you on TikTok. And then they'd walk away like they were ashamed, but they wanted to follow me, but they were ashamed and all that. So, and then my website's just bobsmiley.com. So if people want to find out about shows or get tickets or anything like that. Oh, and I've got a new online store, but I set it up like 2 weeks ago, but nobody's ordered anything. So if just one of your listeners could just order something so I could know that it works, because I'm not going to buy it to test it out. So if you'll go to bobsmiley.com and just order something, just, I have DVDs. If you're friends with Amish people, maybe give a gift to them, and they can do that. And I just want to know that it works. That's all.
Do you have something cheaper that I could afford? I'm just a poor working man. You got headshots? I'll buy a headshot.
No, but I've had people lately ask me for autograph headshots, like mailing out and stuff. And so what I've done is I've grabbed, if there's a poster that I've done lately, I'll just grab that and then I'll just sign it. And then I still won't mail it because that's like, 48 cents, but I'll send them a screenshot.
I have a Christmas card from you in my office at the church because that's where I opened up my mail that day.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was from like a review on the podcast or something. And that's what I got. I think in the email, I jokingly said, I'll take an old Christmas card. So I got a Christmas card, which was amazing.
Yeah. So you got more than most people. Yeah. I think my cheapest thing on the store is $12 for a DVD, but that's free shipping. So come on.
Okay. Well, I'll save up and see what I can do. All right, Bob, thanks for hanging out, dude. Let's do this again. I said twice a week. So this is Wednesday.
Twice a year? Yeah. And I need to skip the next 2 years, but other than that, I'm on.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, see you. Bye. Bye.